Very little is known about Shakespeare between his marriage in 1582, when he was 18, and his emergence as an actor and playwright in 1592. But if he was anywhere near London, he knew about the courtier and war hero, Philip Sidney, who died on October 17, 1586, 3 weeks after a bullet hit his thigh as he charged a supply line of Spanish troops bringing gunpowder to Zutphen in the Netherlands. His London funeral on February 16, 1587, just before that of Mary, Queen of Scots, was unmatched in lavishness for a non-royal until 1962, when Winston Churchill died. 3 years later, England found out that its war hero was a major author, when the publication of The Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia told the world what only a few friends and his sister had known about Sidney's literary ambitions. Having died before the great achievements of the English Renaissance stage, Sidney has little good to say about drama, but he urges English writers to produce literature that will surpass the best of France and Italy. People often wonder what made Shakespeare great. How could he write popular plays that are still studied today? Why did he write in verse? Indeed, why did he write complex drama and not just settle for bawdy jigs? He was trying to make money. The question of genius aside, Sidney's challenge provides no small part of the answer. Echoes of the Arcadia abound in Shakespeare's work, from Romeo and Juliet and Othello to the pastoral play, The Winter's Tale. Sidney was also a master of the art of oratory. His characters' speeches and letters offer lessons in subtle persuasion and ethical appeal that Shakespeare deploys so effectively. So great was Shakespeare's debt, not just to Sidney's work, but to the whole conception that a great nation must have great writers, that it is hard not to hear a tribute to Sidney in the opening line of Shakespeare's most patriotic play, Henry V, when the chorus asks for a muse of fire. The name of one of Sidney's heroes is Musidorus, which means gift of the muses, and the other is Pyrocles, whose name derives from the Greek word for fire. A.L. Rouse touches on Shakespeare's debt to Sidney as well as anyone in his glowing tribute to the Arcadia in his book, The Elizabethan Renaissance, The Cultural Achievement. There is everything in it. Prose and verse, both alike exquisite, pastoral and romance, stories, some of them sensational, ethical discussion, and moral guidance. Overriding everything is the book's message: discipline of mind and heart, control of passion and desire. Only a right rule of conduct can carry one through the evils and storms of life. In one sense, the main story of the book is a parable. Arcadia is no remote romantic kingdom. In a way, it is an idealized England, with moral and political implications for it. Other poets rifled it, notably Shakespeare, and not only shipwrecks. The blind Paphlagonian king touches in The Winter Tale, The Tempest, but verbally. Nowhere, I would argue, is that transmutation more prevalent than Romeo and Juliet. After an introductory, "Ay me," Juliet swoons over Romeo's name, repeating it 3 times, doubtless each time with a different intonation. This is not, as in Joe E. Brown's version of Tisbe, in the Mickey Rooney Midsummer Night's Dream movie of 1935, "Pyramus, Pyramus, Pyramus." It is Romeo with longing, followed by Romeo with love and passion, and then "Wherefore art thou Romeo?" with a combination of peevishness and more longing, Romeo. However it's said, and every actress does it differently, it's a meditation on the name, the word. "Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not Be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. And yet the line is a problem. Because Juliet's problem is not that Romeo is Romeo, but that he's a Montague. Why does she say, "Wherefore art thou Romeo"? The answer is that she is momentarily confused, at least in these lines, before she recovers herself and remembers that the problem is with the Montague part of Romeo's name. "'Tis but thy name that is mine enemy, thou art thyself, though not a Montague." Juliet's answer to this question, what's Montague, is extremely clever. She first associates Romeo from his body, and then she raises the issue of the relationship between any mere word and what it signifies. What's Montague? It is not hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called. Her cleverness is conspicuous. Juliet is arguably the most intelligent female character in English literature to this point, though some may argue for the Wife of Bath, and maybe even for Sidney's Pamela and Philoclea. But what matters most in this speech is not her cleverness, but that Juliet returns to her absorption in the name Romeo, even though the problem remains not that Romeo is Romeo, but that he is a Montague. We cannot be sure that as a Montague, he does not smell as sweet as Romeo, sounding like rose. The source of Juliet's charming confusion is Sidney's Arcadia. And the scene that starts when Pyrocles startles Philoclea by revealing that he is a man and his name is Pyrocles. He is not an Amazon woman named Zelmane. Philoclea realizes at once that her wish has come true, that Zelmane, who has stirred her attraction and even love, is in fact a man. But she too focuses her combination of confusion and delight on the proper name. Philoclea wonders what name to use for the person she had known as Zelmane. In that name my love first began, and in the shade of that name my love shall best lie hidden. What I bewitched me while you were at Zelmane, I know not, for then my passions were more fit for one who desires than one who is desired. At the same time, she wonders what to call Pyrocles. She worries that he has admitted more love than a modest woman should confess to a man. I fear my ill-governed behavior gave you the first comfort. I fear my ill-hidden affection has given you this last assurance. I fear indeed the weakness of my government before made you think such a mask would be grateful to me, and my weaker government since makes you pull off your visor. Juliet makes a similar modest disclaimer when she learns that Romeo has overheard her crooning, repeating, meditating on his name. But before we look at what she says, I need to pause to talk about pronouns. The second person pronominal forms thou, thee, thy, and thine were disappearing in Shakespeare's lifetime. But Sidney's usage is exact. Thou indicates familiarity or inferiority, except when a character is in an excited state or for special emphasis. This distinction can be very significant. In Racine's play Phaedra, George Steiner has pointed out the entire plot of the play turns on the shift from the vous to the passionate tu when Phaedra confesses her longing to her stepson Hippolytus, from the formal to the familiar. Sidney beat Racine to the punch in the very scene we are looking at. When Philoclea wonders what name to use, Zelmane or Pyrocles, she uses the formal you. But when she first berates Pyrocles for his deception, and then nonetheless admits her love for him, she shifts to thou. I fear indeed the weakness of my government before made you think such a mask would be grateful to me, and my weaker government since makes you pull off your visor. What should I do then? Shall I seek far-fetched inventions? Shall I labor to lay marble colors over my ruinous thoughts? Rather, let me keep the true simplicity of my word, though the pureness of my virgin mind is stained. True it is, too true it is, O Zelmane, for so I love to call thee. In that name my love first began, and in the shade of that name my love shall best lie hidden. Thou hast the victory. Use it with virtue. Thy virtue won me with virtue. Preserve me. Dost thou love me? Keep me then still worthy to be loved. Then she held her tongue and cast down a self-accusing look, finding that in herself she had shot from the bow of her affection, as it were, a more quick opening of her mind than she minded to have done. At her father's party, Juliet may kiss Romeo, but she remains strictly on you terms with him. Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, is how she starts, and you kiss by the book is how she ends. On the balcony, however, things move fast when she realizes by rehearsing Romeo's name that she has rent the veil of maiden modesty. Thou knowest, the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek, for that which thou hast heard me speak tonight. Fain would I dwell on form, fain deny what I have spoke. But farewell compliment, dost thou love me? It can hardly be a coincidence that Juliet uses the same words as Philoclea. Not in a play where Juliet's talkative nurse echoes Sidney's Miso. When it is her turn to tell a story in the Arcadia, Damietas' talkative wife begins, I remember it well. It stood in the lane as you go to the barber's shop. All the town knew her, and so forth. Just as garrulous when given a chance to speak by Lady Capulet, Juliet's nurse begins, I remember it well. 'Tis since the earthquake now 11 years, and she was weaned, I shall never forget it. But there's more to this scene too. On the balcony by this point, Romeo is looking for some satisfaction. Juliet cuts him off. What satisfaction canst thou have tonight? Quick on his feet, Romeo settles for the exchange of thy true love's vows for mine. In just the same way, Philoclea puts a stop to Pyrocles' roving hands. It seemed their souls desired to meet and their hearts to kiss as their mouths did. Pyrocles would have sealed it all with the chief arms of his desire. But Philoclea commanded the contrary, and with such embracements they exchanged the promise of marriage. There are more echoes to the Arcadia in Romeo and Juliet than I can touch on today. Shakespeare rifled Sidney. He transmuted his characters and plots. Not privy to life among the great as Sidney was, hardly an inhabitant of the great houses and inner councils, Shakespeare nonetheless learned his aristocratic accents. So let us do what Shakespeare did and wallow to the full in the complete 1593 edition of the Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia.